All right, let's get this show on the road. I'm with CodeWinds. This is my first video, so kind of bear with me. I'm just learning this software to record everything, and obviously I got to drag and drop and move things around. But we'll get this thing started here. So basically, I'm a senior C# developer, and one of the things in the job market right now is React and Angular, and a lot of these JavaScript front ends are pretty popular. And obviously, being a Microsoft person, I've always used Blazor, MVC, just a lot of the Razor pages and stuff like that. And then obviously there are a lot of third-party components like DevExpress and Telerik, and just a lot of things to handle your your UI and make everything look more concise and better. But yeah, the new rage though is React, so I had to bite the bullet and kind of learn React here. So I'm not basically just super, I would say, an expert on it yet. I'm learning as I go, but I thought, we both can go on this learning trip together, because I'm not a beginner programmer. I mean, I know a lot. I'm a full stack developer. But I felt like all of the learning materials for React were pretty much super basic, and they weren't touching on real world scenarios that I'm used to, which is basically having that data layer out there. Now it's RestAPI, but how do you access that, and how do you pull that data in and parse your and do a lot of the little things that you kind of do as a full stack developer. But React is just one piece of it, so I thought I'll just start going down that learning path, and we can do that together. So I'll just stop jacking here and just kind of get going. So let's kind of look at basically, first of all, I prefer to use Visual Studio. It has a lot more tools, and a lot of these newer editors, they're pretty limited in my opinion compared to what something that's mature as Visual Studio is. But obviously everybody wants to use the Visual Code because it does more of that native down to the command line, and do your line command installs and stuff, which is I guess to each his own. But so anyway, but let's go ahead and get started with Visual Studio, because Visual Studio now offers some easier things to do. So let's go ahead and create a new project. And so in this new project, let's just start with React. I've already kind of, if you do a React up here, it'll actually bring up the templates. And so I'm going to keep with JavaScript. I know the new thing is TypeScript, but we'll start with JavaScript. And unfortunately, I've already created a project earlier, but when I was recording it, I kind of screwed everything up. So I'm going to recreate this project, but it's going to be a dummy project, but I'm just going to show you how it's done here. So my main folder area is that. So let's just call this dummy2. And we're just going to go ahead and create that. And so it's going to do its thing. The great thing about the Visual Studio is it will actually bring in the npm install for you and do a lot of that that behind the scenes work. So here's the npm libraries. They're not actually all loaded up yet, but once you get this going, it will be. And so if I were to run this, now this only has the React front end, but if I were to run this, and we're currently in Visual Studio, I'll take a second here to get cranked up, hopefully. I've got too many windows open, it seems, but okay, here we go. So here comes, so there's a script inside of Visual Studio that will actually create the environment and actually hook up the host. So in this host here, it's basically 124.36. That's the port number that it's on. And when the UI pops up, it pops up with the 124.36 port. So people that are already doing React will already understand this and know what this means, because I'm not going to explain all the the basics of React. I'm just going to kind of get into the middle of it and kind of show you how to go grab data and then display it and stuff. So, but yeah, you see the 1236 here, and then you see where React is going to actually expose that or let you click on that. So I'm going to close that. But you're probably wondering, where did we get that port number? Well, that port number is in the Vite config file, and here's that port number. So once again, it kind of Visual Studio does all this for you. We'll kick all that off to make things a lot easier. And once again, you'll see all the npm stuff got inserted. So, but one of the nice things about this also is the fact that I can actually go out, and let's just go out to the actual project I had created earlier, to the React product line. So if I were to open this in the folder, and actually let's bring up Visual Studio too. Let's go ahead and go back out here and grab this. Let me drag it over here. So this is the project I had actually created earlier that I generated through Visual Studio. And of course, I just kind of went out here and I kept this page pretty simple. I'm taking it from the app.js, and all I did was basically import my Axios, and I'll have those import statements, those npx statements in here on how to install that. And then of course I'm using Material UI Grid, which is a free version of a data grid. And then I'll talk about this here in a second too, about this DummyJSON. In the real world, if you're ever really going to go into production and stuff, you're always going to have, or what is popularly used is the REST API. The REST API is where you get your data from. So this here is basically, and if you know anything about REST APIs, I'm not going to explain all this to you. I'm kind of assuming you're kind of a mid-level, or at least not a junior or a beginner programmer, that you kind of know what all this means already. But the two main things I'm going to do is I'm going to go out there and grab that data, and then I'm going to go ahead and structure it into the columns, under the data grid and the material UI. So that's going to be all handled with just in this JSX page. So let me go ahead and fire this off. And if you look at the solution here, you'll notice that the Vite commit is in 7478. So what I'm looking for is the actual 7478 port. And so just in that JSX page, which is just the main page, it's a single page right now, it brought back the data and the grid. So you're probably wondering what the data originally looked like. And let me talk about so the DummyJSON products here, this is just JSON, but there are APIs out there that are free and will actually send you dummy data, and they don't require basically any kind of authorization or a token or anything to get that data. So that's why I'm using this. This kind of keeps everything nice and simple. But what you're going to read down through here is basically the DummyJSON. And it gives you different types of data coming back. So it can bring back cards, products, receipts, users, all that. And basically all you got to do is just go out there and just call up that, oops, I should learn how to type here, products, or I think another one was what? Where'd it go? Sorry about that, I'm kind of hunting around here. Okay. All right, let me go back out here. Let's pull a different one here. Okay, carts. Let's see if carts is one of them. Yep, so you can bring back carts. So all of this is the data coming back, and obviously you can filter it and do, a lot more fine tuning of what the data looks like. But pretty much this is what it's going to look like here. And so let's go and actually look at the app.js again. And what I was mentioning earlier is you can actually bring this up in Visual Code. and you can actually go to the same location as the actual project itself. And that's kind of a nice thing, is the same project is the same area, and this is the exact same code that's out there that we were looking at in Visual Studio. So once again, you know, kind of, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this stuff here as we go along. Right now it's very simple. Obviously there's no navigation. In a real world project you would have basically your header, your footers, basically navigation either on the side or along the top, and then obviously you have multiple pages. And I'll get to that here in just a second. So, but that's the next step we're going to do here.